Sometimes the realest, most unfiltered picture of a country in crisis doesn't come from a polished news report. It comes from a voice in the dark, someone who's wide awake at 3 a.m., overwhelmed with anxiety. Today, we're going to break down one of those exact conversations, a raw, late night confession from a top Mexican hacker that paints a terrifying picture of a nation on the edge.
So these are the first words from Hector Lopez, jumping into a public Twitter space in the dead of night because he just couldn't sleep. Now, Hector is an ethical hacker, right? He's one of the good guys, using his skills to find security flaws before the bad guys can. But his anxiety, it wasn't about a data breach or a server. No, this was a deep, soul-crushing dread about his country, and it was all kicked off by one single horrific event.
So what could possibly be so scary that it jolts a man who deals with the darkest parts of the internet for a living right out of his sleep? Well, it turns out it all started with a single news alert on his phone.
Look, this wasn't just a murder. This was a message. It was a performance. The mayor was executed in broad daylight during one of Mexico's most sacred cultural holidays, the Day of the Dead. The timing, the public setting, the fact he was with his family, every single detail was designed to scream that nobody is untouchable and nowhere is safe. You can just hear the absolute helplessness in Hector's voice here. For him, this wasn't some random act of violence. This was a professional hit, meticulously planned. There was a plan A, there was a plan B. The message was just crystal clear. If the cartels decide you're going to die, you are going to die. It's a show of complete and total power.
So for Hector, this one shocking assassination wasn't just an isolated tragedy. No, it was a symptom of a much, much deeper sickness. And his late-night talk quickly spiraled out from this one event into a full-blown diagnosis of a country where the system itself, the very lines between the government, the military, and organized crime have just totally collapsed.
To really explain the sheer scale of this problem, Hector brings up this term, huachicol fiscal. Now, this isn't just about siphoning a little gas from a pipeline. He describes an operation so massive, it involves filling entire oil tankers with stolen oil from Pemex, the national oil company. And the most unbelievable part, the people he alleges are running this aren't just cartel guys, they're elements inside Mexico's own military and navy.
And this is the impossible question he asks. I mean, how do you even begin to process that? How do you tell the world that the very institutions that are supposed to protect your country are actually the ones plundering it on an industrial scale? It's a level of corruption that just boggles the mind. The watchdogs have become the wolves. So this creates this insane split-screen reality for people living in Mexico. On one side, like Hector says, you have the president's daily press conference painting this picture that everything is perfect. But on the other screen, you have the grim reality on the ground. That same mayor who was just assassinated had been publicly pleading with the government for more security. He was ignored, and then he was killed.
Now, this whole systemic breakdown, it isn't some abstract political theory for Hector. As he keeps talking, it becomes chillingly clear that for him, and for anyone else who dares to speak out, this is a direct, personal, and life-threatening danger.
This is the question that just hangs over this entire conversation. I mean, in a country where a mayor can be publicly executed for challenging criminals, what do you think happens to a journalist or an activist or a hacker who exposes the truth? And Hector's fear isn't just paranoia. It's rooted in this one absolutely staggering statistic. Get this. There's basically a 99% chance of getting away with murder in Mexico. 1 in 100 cases get solved. That's not a flawed justice system. That's a system that practically guarantees impunity. It creates a paradise for assassins.
The logic he spells out is just chillingly simple. His skills as a hacker mean nothing. They're no shield. He says, if an elected official with bodyguards can be taken out so easily, what chance does a regular citizen have? And this isn't some abstract fear. He says that people in their circle have already been killed. The threat is very, very real.
And just to hammer home how powerful and far-reaching these networks are, Hector points to this case, an assassination attempt on a Mexican opposition figure, but not in Mexico, in Washington, D.C. Let that sink in for a second. That is a bold, terrifying statement that there is no safe harbor. Their reach is global, and they're making it clear they can get to anyone, anywhere.
So all of this brings us to one last, really crucial question. Why is Hector Lopez, a well-known guy in Mexico, pouring all of this out on a public channel to Alberto, an activist in a totally different country? Why not talk to someone inside Mexico?
The dynamic of the conversation itself really tells the whole story. You see, for Hector, the insider, to speak this openly inside Mexico is a potential death sentence. He's isolated. So Alberto, the external listener, he becomes an anchor. He provides a safe space, he validates what Hector is feeling, and most importantly, he acts as a witness for the outside world. He's proof that someone is listening to this nightmare. It's an act of total desperation, but it's also an act of incredible hope.
In the end, it all boils down to this impossible choice that Hector lays out. Does he just retreat into the relative safety of his technical work and stay quiet, or does he keep speaking out? But then he says something that just sticks with you. For him, silence isn't safety. He says, if I shut up, I die. He means he'll die on the inside. So it leaves us with this haunting question. What does it really mean to speak truth to power, when that power can literally erase you for doing it?